Introduce Darnell Crosland. He's not only the chairman of the Connecticut NAACP Legal Redress Committee and the second vice president of the Norwalk NAACP branch, but he's also worked for various well-known artists in the entertainment industry. He's been a consultant to David Gates of the Dallas Austin's Free World Entertainment in Atlanta, who's now a COO of Magic Johnson Records and a host of others such as Wyclef Jean, Singing Melody, Half Pint, and Lil Jon. At Lovette Consulting, which handled legal affairs at LaFace Records, Mr. Crosland handled the business of Lisa Left Eye Lopez, Goody Mob, Rico Wade of the Dungeon Family, Outkast, and Usher, just to name a few. And today, Mr. Crosland is a solo attorney practicing before the New York Federal Bar, as well as litigating in Connecticut State, Federal, and Appellate Courts. And Michael Thomas, who's also with us, has handled communications, special constituencies, and facility operations as part of the campaign staff for President William Jefferson Clinton, the Democratic National Convention Committee of 1996, and the Presidential Inaugural Committee, respectively. He has been affiliated with various legal societies and law firms. Mr. Thomas recently became of counsel with the law offices of Darnell, Crosland, and Stamford, Connecticut, where he handled civil, criminal, and family law matters. He serves on the alumni board of Happy School, Tarrytown, New York, and on the board of directors of Elder House Adult Day Care Center in Norwalk, Connecticut. Please welcome Darnell Crosland to the microphone.
Good afternoon. Good evening. Thank you for having us to come out today. I'm not sure if I should sit or stand, but I guess I'll do a combination of both. This brother who just spoke just really touched me in many ways when you listen to the words that he was expressing in terms of incarceration, the numbers of blacks that are incarcerated. We all know that now prisons are becoming privatized. This has been something that's been on the rise for a long time now. And like every other business, if you want to profit, you need some customers, some patrons. So in every other business sense, you need to go out and get those customers in some way or some form. It's just been unfortunate lately, the customers of prisons have been black and Latinos, and that's for various reasons. If anybody's been watching the news, I think it's in Pennsylvania, a judge just was sentenced to 28 years, a white judge, for sending children, juveniles, I believe, to a prison, and he made $1 million doing this, just for his pockets alone. So when you look at that type of thing, you have to say to yourself, what are we talking about? You know, you mentioned Jim Crow and how racism and that sort of thing is taking on different looks. Well, that's a prime example of what we're talking about. I sit on the board for the homeless shelter in Stamford, Connecticut, and I'll tell you, there's not a night that goes by that when you look out to the people who are patrons, it's 50% almost of whites and blacks. So there's a lot of whites homeless that come into the shelter that seek out our assistance on a daily basis. But when you read statistics, you don't really see that. And I think maybe it's profitable to keep it a black and Latino thing, and so that way we can get money from Hartford or wherever the capitals are, because maybe those are more sympathetic people in terms of that goal. But nonetheless, when you look at education, I think if in fact education is supposed to be the great equalizer, the main thing that we're supposed to be focused on is getting everybody an equal education, so that way they can quote unquote have a chance to change society, change the lives of their families, etc. So when you have a case like the Tanya McDowell case, where someone's incarcerated and charged with a 20-year felony for putting a 4-year-old at the time, a 5-year-old, into a school that's quote-unquote outside of her district, that's really sad. It's sad for many reasons. One, we see that the prisons are closing now. At least the public prisons are closing. Bergen is closed. I believe Cheshire is on its way to being closed. Many prisons across Connecticut are being closed because we can't afford to run them. So when you look at a case like Tanya McDowell, where the prosecutor's office has to expend a lot of manpower and our money to prosecute this, you say to yourself, does it make sense? Does it make any sense at all? When you look at the fact that she's now in prison in Niantic, and we're paying every day to keep her there, you have to ask yourself, does that make sense? And then when you talk about breaking the cycle, September is rapidly approaching us. So that means her young son starts first grade. Now, if his mother's not there when he starts school, and his mother's in prison, the psychological effect that his mother not being there when he starts school is going to be lasting. It's going to be a lasting effect. So you say to yourself, are we going to be back in the same situation a couple of years from now when he's in juvenile court, or he has issues with women, or just socializing properly, and now he's in jail, he's in juvenile court, he's in adult court, and we're spending more money? I think that flies in the face of reasoning. So just to give everybody a little background in terms of the case itself, because I'm sure a lot of people heard of the Tanya McDowell case, but I'm not sure if you know exactly what's happening. Tanya McDowell was living in a homeless shelter documented in Norwalk, Connecticut for a good period of 2009, I believe 2008 as well. At that point, she left the shelter, had an opportunity to leave the shelter, so she left the shelter, and she was staying off and on at different people's homes. One particular home in Bridgeport, she had a friend that she stayed with. I think it's important to mention the whole idea about being homeless. When you're homeless doesn't mean you're not human. And I think that's what happens. So if you see a homeless person on the street, you may be looking for a person with cut-off gloves, living under a highway or something like that, looking really filthy. But homeless people are among us. There may be some people in here that are in transit, that stay from here to there. I do matrimonial law as well as Attorney Thomas, and we can't tell you on a day-to-day basis. You can go into court today with the home and come out with a what do you call that motion again? I forget the name of it. A motion that causes one of the other parties, most of the male, to have to leave the home, and so that person has to leave the home immediately. And the wife or the husband has exclusive possession of the home. That person at that point, whether leaves the home, routinely lives on a person's couch, a friend of theirs, hotel, or in a car. That person's without a home. And so the face of the homeless is not just what you envision or what you see in the movies. So in the case of Tanya McDowell, she left the shelter, she was staying in her van for a lot of times, etc. Her son was enrolled in Norwalk Public School because she was in the shelter in Norwalk. She was also part of what they call AIC, which is an alternative to incarceration, and is run out of a center called a Neon Center. And she was working with them for job readiness, etc. And her son was staying with a babysitter in Norwalk, in a housing project, and going to school in Norwalk. So now it came a point where there was an eviction action brought against her son's babysitter. Once that took place, the lawyer for the housing authority elicited some information from Tanya McDowell, who was called as a witness at that hearing, that her address, her registered address, was in Bridgeport. Now again, she had a van that she had to register, and she had to have a mailing address, so she used the address in Norwalk. She had other bills, etc., so she had an address, like a P.O. box, etc. And she's also able to stay there for a while until she wears out her welcome and she leaves, she comes back.